If you want to win better clients more often, one of the best ways is to use psychology. I'm going to show you 5 psychological tools you've probably never heard of to tilt the odds in your favour. Let's kick this off with a look at how to price your services. It's called the Goldilocks effect. So The Economist once offered 2 subscription options, online for $59 and print and online for $125. But then they did something smart and added a third choice, print only at $125. Suddenly, the print and online option looked like an incredible deal. Sales of their most profitable item jumped from 32% to 84%, nearly tripling their revenue. So what's going on here? Well, it's called the decoy option. People are more likely to go for the target option because there's a decoy that changes the relative perceived value. Now, I think it's our job to make the buying decision as simple and clear as possible, not by offering competing, confusing options, but by designing it so that the right choice, well, it becomes a total no-brainer. But we haven't even got to the Goldilocks effect yet. So that takes place when there's 3 different options at 3 different price points. Now, most people don't like to think of themselves as being cheap. The cheapest option, well, it's never that alluring. Most people also consider themselves to be prudent and sensible. So for many, that rules out the most expensive option, which means the vast majority will gravitate towards that middle ground, to your middle option. Some data shows that the same service went from being selected 27% of the time in a 2-option list to 57% of the time in a 3-option list. That's the Goldilocks effect. Not too hot, not too cold, just about right. So where should we put the Goldilocks effect on our list? I'm going to put it in the C tier. But what if there was a way to get prospects to convince themselves that they need to hire you? It's called the identity mirror. Let me explain how it works. So participation in a simple survey increased 3-fold just by simply changing how the request was framed. In that study, researchers were approaching people in a shopping mall, asking them to complete a simple questionnaire. But when they pre-framed that question with, "Do you consider yourself a helpful person?" well, participation went up from 25% to 75%. Ask questions that invite your prospects to affirm the values that align with selecting you. So as an example, let's take a father's custody case. You could use a pre-framed question like, would you say that being an active, present father is important to you? When they answer, yes, absolutely, they're not just telling you, they're actually reminding themselves who they want to be and how they want to be seen. You then explain why you are the right person to deliver on those values. For example, that's awesome because this is our area of expertise. By selecting us, you'll be doing everything you reasonably can to remain present in your children's lives. And we will fight tooth and nail, if we need to achieve that goal for you. Now this taps into what psychologists call the consistency principle, or the identity mirror. Once people publicly state a belief or value, they feel internal pressure to act consistently with that statement. So, where do you think the identity mirror lives in our list? Well, when it's done well, the prospects effectively convince themselves they need to hire you, which means you don't have to do almost any selling. And that's why the best law firms use it. So I'm going to put the identity mirror in the A tier. But let's be honest, it does take some confidence to pull off and deliver it smoothly. But what if there was a technique that was arguably just as effective, but so simple, anybody in our team could master it in minutes? That brings us to our next option, micro commitments. In a famous psychological experiment, researchers went door to door asking homeowners to install a large, ugly yard sign to promote safe driving. Only 17% agreed. But then the researchers tried a 2-step approach. This time, they simply asked the homeowners to put a small sticker in their window. Most people said yes. 2 weeks later, they returned to those same houses and then asked for the yard sign. This time, 76% agreed. That's a 400% increase in compliance, all because of that simple question first. So, what's going on here? Well, it works because of our deep need for personal integrity. Once we say yes to something, however small, that's a micro commitment. Each commitment defines who we are. So in this example, that small commitment to put a sticker in the window, well, it defined themselves as somebody that supports road safety. So the next request is totally in line with that self-value, and it feels totally natural and completely congruent. So how are family lawyers using this to win more clients? Well, instead of doing what a lot of lawyers do and just asking for one big question like, will you hire us, please? Instead, you want to get a series of yeses. This can start with something completely innocuous, like commenting on the weather or the time of year or their journey. Then you might build on that momentum to define their priorities. Then stronger commitment agreements before you effortlessly move into the close. And notice what's happening here. So you're not asking for one big commitment right away. You're just building a series of small incremental commitments that create momentum. Each yes builds rapport, brings you closer together, and helps move them closer to their final decision. And by the time you get to that big ask, well, it's not a big ask at all. It just feels the natural next step. Easy. So, where do you think this belongs on our list? I'm going to put it into the B tier. So will we find anything worthy of the S tier? Well, let's see. So this next technique, well, it actually starts working before you even start talking with your prospect. It actually positions you as, well, the obvious choice to their needs. And your prospects arrive more receptive to everything you say. And the best part, your team can start implementing it tomorrow. It's called the authority transfer. Now, you already know that celebrity endorsements, well, they can boost almost any brand or any business. But what you probably didn't know is you don't need to be famous or really have any authority for this to work. So a Harvard Business Review study found that endorsements can increase conversions by 50% just by having somebody else introduce you. It's like having the Apple logo on your laptop. Instant credibility. Now, I first came across this way back when I was working in contract publishing. That meant we had a big team of telesales staff selling ads on the phone every day. And perhaps the most powerful technique was the authority transfer. Our sales team would be on the phone, haggling and negotiating with the customer, trying to close the deal. And at a certain point, they'd say something like, "Hey, hang on, my boss has just walked in the room. Let me put you on hold and see if I can grab him. Let's hope he's in a good mood." The phone would go silent for a few seconds before the boss came on the call. And very quickly, not all the time, but a lot of the time, they'd close the deal at the same price point they'd previously said no to. I watched this play out hundreds, if not thousands of times. But here's the psychology of it. It doesn't actually matter their position in the company, their seniority, or even their sales skills. That simple introduction transferred all that power to the boss. But it wasn't the boss at all. It was just who was walking past the table in that exact moment, often a very junior member of the sales team. So just positioning this person as the boss, well, it totally changed the interaction. It's really phenomenal to watch, actually. The prospect becomes more respectful, more receptive, and yes, more compliant. And it worked consistently, day after day after day. And that's all that the authority transfer is. It's getting somebody else to position you as the authority. And here's how the best family law firms are using this technique today. You should use it in your very first conversation, be that on the phone or in a one-to-one meeting. So instead of the receptionist saying, "Let me connect you with Attorney Smith," they pre-frame you as the obvious choice. For example, "I'm so glad you called our firm. You've made a really good decision. Attorney Smith is one of the best and leading family law solicitors in the area. Has helped hundreds of people in exactly the same situation as yours. So let me take a few details and we'll get you booked in for that consultation right away." That's it, just 30 seconds. But in those 30 seconds, your staff member has validated their decision to call you, established your authority and expertise, created social proof, and made them feel understood. The prospect hasn't even met you yet, but they're already primed to see you as the expert, as the authority, and perhaps you are already being seen as the obvious choice. So, where do you think this one belongs in our tier list? It's a simple foundation that makes everything else feel effective and effortless. You can start implementing it tomorrow. So this is S-tier level stuff. But we're not done yet. I've got one more powerful tool that you need to know about. Our next and last tool helps remove the hesitation that prospects naturally might have before they choose to work with you. Our last tool is called fear of loss. Nobel Prize-winning psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky discovered something remarkable about human psychology. They found that the pain of losing something is approximately twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. It might not be logical, but that's how our brains are wired. So your clients aren't really hiring you to win something. They're hiring you to protect what they already have. And that's a much stronger driving emotion. So time with their children, their financial security, their reputation, their future. When you ethically frame your services around what's at risk, you'll find prospects don't want to shop around and they'll start taking action immediately. Fear of loss is the emotional engine behind almost every family law hiring decision. So during consultations, frame your services around protection. Instead of, we'll work to get you a fair financial settlement, say, we'll make sure you don't lose the financial security you've worked years to build. Create appropriate urgency around timing. Every day you wait gives the other side more time to build their case against you. The longer this case drags on, the more it's going to cost you both financially and emotionally. Course, they tend to favour the status quo, so the sooner we can establish your rights, the better. Use social proof to highlight the consequences. I've seen too many people try to handle this stuff themselves, only to lose the rights that they never get back. The clients will wait too long to get proper representation, where they often end up with outcomes they regret for years. Remember, your clients are already afraid, so it is not your job to create fear. It's to position yourself as a solution to their fears that they already have. And when you do that, price becomes almost irrelevant, and you become the obvious go-to choice. So, where do you think this lives on our tier list? I think fear of loss is particularly powerful in family law, but it requires careful and ethical application. Used correctly, it can be the final push to get your prospects to take the action that they need. So I'm going to put it in the B tier. So let me give you a quick recap before I give you one final example. So starting from the C tier, moving up, we start with the Goldilocks effect. Structure your pricing so the decision shifts from should I hire you to which package fits me best. And the middle solution fits just right. Then we move on to the B tier, starting with fear of loss. Frame your services around protecting what they already have, not winning something new. Then we've got micro commitments. Build momentum using small yeses that build rapport and make the final decision feel like the obvious and natural next step. Then we move into the big guns, the A tier, the identity mirror. And this was very close to getting to the S tier category. It gets prospects to tell you exactly why they're the perfect client for your services. And that's incredibly powerful. And in first place, it's the S tier, the authority transfer. Have someone else position you as the obvious choice before you even enter the conversation. And watch your conversions fly. So there's the 5 psychological tools that only the top 5% of family law firms are using today. And none of these require more staff, more hours, or even more marketing spend. It's just about better understanding who your prospects are and what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And of course, some dedication to put in the reps to make it feel effortless and flawless. And you'll convert more prospects than you've ever done before. So let me give you one last example. I want to see if you spot the technique that I'm going to use right here. So, do you consider yourself to be a fair person? And would it be fair that if you're still watching this, that you have received some value from this video? And if so, help me out. Tell me in the comments, how many of these techniques are you not using yet? Because the more opportunities you spot and acknowledge, the faster you will grow. Now, I recently analysed 457 family law firms. So check out this video here, because honestly, the results shocked me. And I think it's going to shock you too.